It all started as a peaceful weekend getaway to my remote mountain cabin. Just me, the trees, and some much-needed quiet. I've owned this land for years. No neighbors, no noise, just pure nature. Or at least, that's what I thought. That peace shattered the moment a woman I'd never seen before pulled up in a shiny SUV, marched straight onto my property, and started yelling like she ran the place. She claimed to be the head of some HOA, one that doesn't even exist up here. I tried explaining this was private land, but she wasn't having it. Next thing I know, she's on the phone with the cops, shouting about trespassers and demanding they remove *me* from my *own cabin. I thought it was a joke until the police showed up. Now I'm standing there holding the deed while she's screaming about her authority, insisting she owns the mountain, or at least controls it. And the worst part, the officer actually seems confused about who's telling the truth. I couldn't believe it. Who is this woman? Why is she so convinced she's in charge of land she doesn't own? And how did this all spin so far out of control? Stick around, because what happens next had even the officer questioning everything, and trust me, it only gets more insane from here. So there I was, standing on my own land, trying to keep calm while this woman, who I later found out calls herself Karen, kept insisting that I was breaking HOA rules. But here's the thing, there is no homeowners association out here. This mountain is miles from the nearest development. I bought the entire plot years ago after saving up and dreaming of a peaceful off-grid escape. I even double-checked with the county before building the cabin. No restrictions, no associations, just raw land. But she wasn't hearing any of that. She kept pointing at random parts of the woods, saying things like, "That trail is community property, and you can't make changes to the landscape without board approval." I asked, "What board? What community?" She just narrowed her eyes and said, "Don't play dumb." The cop was clearly caught off guard. He asked me for ID, and while I was reaching for it, Karen jumped in, waving some folded papers and yelling that she had documents proving I was squatting on land I legally own. At that point, I realized this wasn't just some mix-up. This lady had come prepared, with fake paperwork, a story, and the confidence of someone who's done this before. The officer looked at both of us, confused, and said, "Okay, someone's lying." I could feel my heart racing as the officer asked us to step aside, me on one side of the dirt driveway, Karen on the other. He took her papers first. I watched as she handed him a messy stack of printed-out maps, some blurry satellite photos, and what looked like a fake letterhead from a Mountain View property board. That's not even a real thing. She kept talking over him, rambling about community standards, architectural violations, and how I was disturbing the harmony of the landscape. Meanwhile, I stood there holding the official deed with my name, the survey maps, and even the original purchase agreement. While the officer flipped through the documents, I started thinking, how did she even find this place? You can't stumble across my cabin. It's off a private road, behind a locked gate, and not even on Google Maps. That's when I remembered the hiker I ran into last week who asked too many questions. Was that connected? And here's the twist. Karen mentioned something about a community patrol schedule, like this was a regular thing. Had she done this to someone else? Was there some weird scheme behind all this? The officer stepped back, clearly overwhelmed. Karen was still going off, louder now, and I was stuck waiting to see whose story he believed next. The officer took a deep breath and said he needed to make a few calls to verify ownership. Karen smirked like she'd already won, arms crossed, acting like she was the sheriff of the mountain. I tried to stay cool, but inside I was boiling. I knew I had nothing to hide, but the way she was talking, twisting facts, and throwing out fake terms like unauthorized structure and non-compliant roofing materials, I started wondering if she'd actually convinced herself this was all real. Then she started walking around my cabin, pointing at things like my solar panels and rainwater tank, saying, That's definitely a code violation. The officer told her to stay back, but she wouldn't stop. She even took out her phone and started filming everything, narrating like she was documenting some huge scandal. "This is what happens when squatters take over protected land," she said loudly, angling her camera right at my face. Then she started walking around my cabin, pointing at things like my solar panels and rainwater tank, saying, "That's definitely a code violation." The officer told her to stay back, but she wouldn't stop. She even took out her phone and started filming everything, narrating like she was documenting some huge scandal. "This is what happens when squatters take over protected land," she said loudly, angling her camera right at my face. I tried showing the officer my documents again, calmly this time. I explained where the property lines were, how the land was zoned, and even pulled up the county website on my phone. But he looked stuck, like he didn't want to accuse either of us yet. That's when a second cop car pulled up. Karen immediately waved them down, yelling, "Thank God, backup's here." That's when I knew this was about to get serious. As the second officer stepped out of the cruiser, Karen rushed toward him like she'd just spotted her best friend. She started going off again, louder this time, about unauthorized occupancy, property damage, and something wild about me endangering the wildlife habitat. It was like she was pulling phrases out of a legal dictionary, hoping something would stick. But then, here's where it got weird. This new officer looked at her and said, "Ma'am, have we met before?" That froze her in her tracks. Just for a second, her whole vibe changed. She smiled awkwardly and said, "I volunteer with several communities. Maybe from one of the neighborhood watch meetings." He didn't look convinced. He stepped aside with the first officer and they started talking quietly. Karen was still pacing, muttering about lawsuits and calling the county. I stayed where I was, watching this whole thing unfold, when I noticed something she hadn't meant for anyone to see. In her open car door was a binder, just sitting on the seat, full of printed maps, what looked like house listings, and pages of handwritten notes. Names, parcel numbers, even photos. I could barely believe it. This wasn't just some entitled neighbor. She'd been researching properties, maybe even targeting remote landowners. I didn't know what to do yet, but one thing was clear. She didn't just stumble onto my mountain, she planned this. While the officers talked, I quietly walked over to my truck, pretending to grab my phone charger. But really, I snapped a photo of that binder in Karen's car, just in case. Something felt off, and I had a gut feeling I'd need proof later. When the officers came back over, their tone had definitely shifted. The second cop asked me a few more questions: where I got the land, how long I'd lived there, if I had any paperwork on hand. I showed them everything, and this time they actually looked through it. Carefully, one of them called it in to verify with the county. Karen started to panic. Her voice got shriller, and she kept trying to interrupt. "He's lying. He's faking it all. This is *** mountain. He's violating everything, everything." But then the first officer raised his hand and said, "Ma'am, please calm down. We've confirmed. This land legally belongs to him." That shut her up for a second. And just when I thought it was over, the officer glanced at her car and asked, "Mind if we take a look inside?" Her face dropped. She froze. "Why?" she asked, way too fast. "It's just personal stuff." He nodded slowly. "We'll need to see that binder." That's when she ran. Not just walked away, she ran into the woods. And the real story had only just begun. The moment Karen bolted into the woods, both officers took off after her. I stood there in shock, still holding my deed in one hand and my phone in the other. It felt surreal. A few minutes later, they'd brought her back, mud on her shoes, still trying to claim she was in the right. But once they looked through that binder, everything changed. Turns out she'd been tracking several remote properties, especially ones without full-time residents. Her plan was to show up, act like an authority figure, and scare people off. She'd done it before, but this time she'd picked the wrong mountain. The officers told me I did the right thing by staying calm and documenting everything. They filed a report, and she was eventually charged with trespassing and filing false claims. I stayed a couple extra days at the cabin just to breathe again and clear my head. What I learned: always keep your paperwork nearby, know your rights, and trust your gut, especially when dealing with entitled people like this. Some folks will do anything to feel powerful, even if it means faking authority, but facts always win. Thanks for watching, and remember, not every Karen lies in the suburbs. Some hike mountains too.